So I think we can agree that basically if you're not prepared for something, then you're gonna crash. So you gotta come prepared. You gotta come prepared. If you don't come prepared and you don't have a basic idea of what you're doing, you're gonna end up crashing and burning. This is video number 2, and today we're gonna be talking about figurative language. And this is definitely, most definitely gonna show up on your test that's coming up in a month, right? So if I were you, I would do what you're supposed to do. Get your pen out, get your journal out that we talked about last time. And if you haven't checked out video number 1, the introduction, I would watch that. I would look at that video first. So I'm gonna take some time out of my obviously busy schedule so we can get you guys ready for this. All right? Yeah, so we're going to be dealing with figurative language today. And like I told you before, if you didn't watch that first video, you really should go back and watch video 1 of 5. There's going to be 5 videos. And if I were you, I'd watch them again and again and again until I got the information. Couple things that are going to be changing in this video. Number 1, you're really going to need to take notes this time, alright? So you need your pen, you need your journal. I know I threw it up on the screen a couple of times, but when I put terms on the screen, you need to copy them down. You know, and if you don't, you know, that's on you, you know, but, you know, because you're not getting graded for this and I'm not getting paid for it. So the only reason that I'm doing this is because I care about you and I love you. And the only reason why you should be doing this is because you care about yourself and you love yourself and you want to do a little bit better, or you want to have a fighting chance when it comes time to take that test, right? So start off, it's just say figurative language right on the top of your journal, right? And when the terms come on screen, right, I'll give you some directions. I'll tell you that you can copy down the terms while you're listening to me, or if you want to, so you can copy them off right in your journal while you're listening to what I got to say to you, or if you want to, you can press pause and take all the time you need to copy down the terms. And then we're going to talk about them. Another thing that's going to be changing, at the end of this video, there's going to be an assignment for you. And those of you that submit it to me, submit the assignment to my email address in typing. I mean, I know you got time during the day. You can text your friends all day. You can use your iPhone to type out the assignment if you have to, or your Android, or whatever it is you got, right? You know, and if you submit the assignment to me, I'll definitely give you a shout out on the video number 3 of 5 and let everybody that's watching know that you're following the program. And you know, if you don't, that's on you. You know, it's not a mandatory thing. You don't have to do this, but I'm telling you that it's going to be important for you. And you know me, my word is my bond. That means that if it's coming out of my mouth, then it's the bona fide, certified, verified, fortified truth. Some of you could get through your entire life without knowing anything about figurative language or how to write an essay well. You know, and that's the course that your life might take, and it might be a good life, right? But for many of you, this is going to open doors for you. Having this basic knowledge and this mastery over language is going to be good for you, all right? But one thing I can tell you is that not following the program, not trying to pass these tests, not trying to show and prove that you've got you're at that certain grade level that you should be at, and you should be placed in a certain spot that you should be placed, right? Not trying, not making an effort, that's going to be bad for you. It's going to lock you out of certain things in the future, right? So those decisions you make now, if you're 12, 13, 14, 15, those decisions are going to affect you later in a way that you're not going to want to be affected, right? And I can tell you that from personal experience. Don't forget, this is Mr. Livinoce. I've either been where you've been or close to. You don't want to wait till later. It's not a good look. I don't care who it offends. It's not a good look to be 30 years old and going back to get a high school diploma. That's not something you should chase after, all right? If you do it, if you're 30 years old or you know somebody is 30 and they're going to get their diploma, good for them. Congratulations, but they made a mistake. If you went back for your high school diploma when you're 30 years old, you made an error. And now you're correcting that error. And any of them, if they're going to be honest with you, are going to tell you that's not the way to go. Alright, so I'm telling you that being placed in a bad class next year is not a good thing for your future. Figurative language is just a blanket term, okay? And that term basically means that it's language or it's phrases that usually compares two things, alright? And is basically a part of your paint box as a writer, and it's also something that you should be aware of as a reader. So when you're this is going to work out. Chill, son. When you're reading a passage from one of the tests you're going to be taking, it's important that you recognize. So when it comes to figurative language, that's basically gonna be twofold for you when you take your standardized test. I mean, the first thing that you're going to really need to know about figurative language is how to recognize it. It's basically a tool that a writer uses, right? So when you're reading something, it's a tool that writer used to help you imagine or visualize something that they're writing about, right? Now, when you want to use the figurative language, it's a little bit more tricky because you got to really know it well. So when you're writing an essay, especially a descriptive essay, using figurative language is just going to show your reader that you're writing at a higher level. that you understand some of the basic things in the writer's toolbox, and you maybe understand a little bit more to the point where you can write something that's effective, that your readers can be able to visualize. And it's advanced. It's not something that comes natural. It's something that you got to learn. The first term that we're going to talk about is simile. A simile is a comparison of two things that's either using like or as, right? So an example of a simile is the sun was as yellow as a ball of fire. Her feet were bigger than boats. They fought like cats and dogs. All right, those are all similes. And you notice that it uses like and as when you're talking about a simile. Now, a metaphor is like a simile. It's comparison between two unlike things, but it's not using like or as. All right. So you could say maybe you were talking to a teacher trying to explain something, and you could say she was a brick wall, right? A brick wall. Now you think about a brick wall you have to climb over. You might not be able to get past it, right? Now when you say, and you know, not to make a funny joke, but it's like, you know, there's that song, but she's a brick house. She's mighty, mighty, letting it all hang out. Well, yeah. I mean, you know, so it's like, not to be funny, but that she's a brick house. Just they were trying to, when they were singing that, they were talking about a well-built woman, right? And so they say she's a brick house. And so, you know, but you know, let's move on. But a metaphor is essentially comparing two things that are not alike, and you're not using like or as. You're just saying that's the thing, right? So you're talking about a boxing match. He was a beast, right? So you're not saying he fought like a beast. He was a beast, and that's a metaphor. Simile would be like he fought like a beast, or he was as brutal as a beast, all right? So the two things are very much alike, but it's really important that you know the difference, that a simile uses like or as, and a metaphor does not use like or as. A hyperbole is an exaggeration. So you can say that she has tons of money, right? Now, she doesn't actually have tons of money, because that would be like saying, you know, somebody showing up with a truck to unload tons of money onto the floor, because tons is a measurement of weight, right? But she has a lot of money. She's got dough, right? So a hyperbole would be an exaggeration, saying she has tons of money. Another thing, you know, man, it was so hot outside. It was 1,000,000 degrees. Now, we all know that if it was 1,000,000 degrees, your skin would burn off and deteriorate, and things would be terrible, and everybody would die, blah, blah, blah. So it could never be 1,000,000 degrees and somebody survived. So a hyperbole is just an exaggeration. And it's a way that a writer could express to you something, he or she could express to you something and have you really visualize it and understand what they're driving at. And it doesn't necessarily have to be true. It's exaggerated. Hyperbole is an exaggeration. An idiom is a little difficult. It's an expression. That's understood by defining separate words. Like, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. You're never going to eat a horse, so I hope you're not going to eat a horse, right? But if you say you're so hungry you could eat a horse, that's an idiom. The test was a piece of cake. The test wasn't a piece of cake, right? You know, you don't sit down and you eat the cake and they judge you and score you based on how you eat that cake. But when you say the test was a piece of cake, that's basically saying that it was sweet. It was easy going, you know? And it's basically a writer's way of sharing a feeling with you, or comparing something to something else, and it's a little unusual. So an idiom is an expression that can't be understood by defining the separate words. It's not like a metaphor or a simile when you can really clearly point out the differences and whether or not they're using like or as. Something fishy is going on when it comes to the scoring of these tests. Like, you know, why did the person that sleeps through class every day get 100% and the person that tried hard get a 75%, right? Something fishy is going on. That doesn't really mean that anything fishy is going on. You know, it's no fish, you know? But an idiom is essentially an expression, and the two pieces that you're talking about are hard to define. So if you were to actually try to break it down logically, how is the test fishy? A lot of times, and that usually means something stinks, like there's something not right about this. But there's another layer, of thought there that's put into idioms. And a lot of times when you see an idiom, you're going to recognize it as long as you know what to look for. The next piece that we're going to be talking about is an allusion, right? An allusion is a piece of figurative language, and an allusion is really a reference to something in pop culture, or a reference to something in our history that all of us know. You know what I mean? And you know, depending on our age, depending on our background culturally, you know, you might miss an allusion, you know? And that's one of the things when people say that these tests are culturally biased, like they're not for everybody. So if you're a person that came from another country and you took this test and you've just been here 3 years, you're not going to know who Princess Leia is, right? I know who Princess Leia is. I'm 30-something years old, and Princess Leia is the person in Star Wars, the beautiful girl in Star Wars, and we saw her in a gold bikini once, and she had little buns in her head. So if somebody said the cinnamon rolls were so huge and big and brown that they remind me of the buns on Princess Leia's head, then I'm going to know what the illusion is about. But you might not. If you just got here from Japan 3 years ago and you've never seen Star Wars, or if you're 14 and you're not 30-something, or if you're 70 and you're not 30-something and you've never seen Star Wars, you're not going to get the illusion. So you got to be careful. But you know, even if you don't understand exactly what it is, sometimes you're going to get that it is an illusion, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Rebecca didn't like to spend money, but she was no Scrooge. All right? Now, we all know, hopefully, that Scrooge is the popular character from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, whether we read it, saw the play, or saw the movie. And, you know, so we know that the characteristic of that character is that, you know, he was a penny pincher. He didn't spend a ton of money on anything, and whenever anybody was trying to charge him for something, he was extra careful not to pay too much. You know what I mean? So when you say that she is no Scrooge, it means that, you know, she does spend money. She's not that, she might be thrifty, but she's not the type to just pinch pennies all the time and never spend any money. So you got to be careful, because illusions are not always completely apparent. They're not always immediately definable when you see them. But if you get to start getting comfortable with what illusions are and how they're used, then you're going to be able to recognize them even when you don't understand what the illusion is. Personification is something you're going to see all the time. That's another piece of figurative language. And personification is really giving human qualities to non-human things. So it's like giving a human quality to an object, giving a human quality to an animal, giving a human quality to a machine, something that's functioning. And an example of that would be like you know, if you ever go outside and it's like, you know, rain usually bums you out, but sometimes you go outside and it's just like the perfect mixture. You go outside and it's like, whew, it was hot for days, and you can say the rain kissed my cheeks. Now, come on. We know that the rain doesn't actually kiss your cheeks, but in a sense, it was kind of, you know, when somebody kisses your cheek, it's a nice thing. It's an expression of love. It's something that you wait for, and it's an expression of friendship, right? So when the rain kisses your cheeks, it means it's something positive or pleasant that came to you, right? And so the rain kissed my cheeks. Rain can't kiss cheeks. That's a human quality. That's not a quality of something that comes out of nature, you know, like the rain, right? But when the rain kisses your cheeks, that's an example of personification. The car engine coughed like it had a cold, right? Or you know, the car engine coughed and hacked and sputtered as it started. A car engine can't cough. It doesn't get a cold. It's not susceptible to influenza, right? But a car engine could cough, like when you're trying to turn over an engine, especially if the car is like a little old. It's like it might sound a little bit like a hacking cough, right? So when you say the car engine coughed, the car engine didn't actually cough. But what the car engine did was, you know, it sputtered a little bit. It was having trouble turning over. So by saying the car engine coughed, you're just attributing a human feature to a non-human object. One more example would be the microwave timer. And y'all know I don't eat this stuff, right? Remember, I don't eat this garbage. But the microwave timer told me that the pizza is ready. Now, I don't know what kind of microwave you got, but I don't have a microwave. But when I did have a microwave, the microwave never told me anything, you know? But at least not in English, you know? So the microwave told me that the pizza was ready. The microwave has no tales to tell, you know what I mean? The microwave doesn't speak. But when he says the microwave told me that the pizza was ready, that's an example of personification, because you're attributing a human quality, speaking or telling, to an object that just cooks things, or doesn't even really cook things. And we're not going to get into microwaves and all the dangers of microwaving and frozen pizza and preservatives today. You know, that's for another lesson. But yeah, so attributing a human quality to something that's not human, maybe an object, maybe an animal, is personification. Onomatopoeia. 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 Right? And say it fast. I want y'all to master onomatopoeia, because, you know, it's the kind of funny thing. Onomatopoeia is like a person's name from a foreign country that you don't know that foreign country, and they say their name and they spell it and you just can't ever seem to remember it. Well, onomatopoeia, or onomatopoeia is really how it's pronounced, is something like that. You might forget it if you don't look at it for a while. Boom! Bang! Pow! Hiss! Those are all words, right? You can spell the word hiss, H-I-S-S. But all that really does is it demonstrates what a sound is. So it's when a word sounds like what it represents. Splash, splash, right? The word splash is just signifying the sound splash, like when somebody does a cannonball into a pool. Or drip, drip, right? The word drip is just signifying the sound of a little water dripping. So that's an onomatopoeia. Smush. If you smush the bug, you know, it doesn't really go smush when you smush it, but it sounds a little bit like smush. Smush, smush, smush is onomatopoeia. Splat, Splat, like if something falls from a tall building, like a tomato or something on the floor, it just psh, splat, right? Bang, boom. All right, those are all onomatopoeia. Imagery is the use of vivid sensory descriptions in order to create a mental picture in your mind, right? So imagery is rough. It's like when a writer tries to paint a picture for you so you can really see it. And sometimes they use examples. And it gets confusing because sometimes what they're saying has the words like and as. So you might think, huh, is that a simile, right? An example would be, the room was dark and musty and smelled like an old shoe. So there's a simile in there, like an old shoe, right? But there's other things too, like dark, musty. Those are descriptive words. Those are adjectives. So when somebody's using imagery, a writer, and you can recognize that they're using a lot of descriptive words to try to get you to paint a picture in your mind of what they're talking about or what they're writing about, then you know that they're using imagery. That's the quality that they're going for. The blueberries were as big as your thumb and tasted like soot. Blueberries as big as your thumb, that automatically makes you think about the size of your thumb relative to the size of most blueberries, which are really small compared to that, like maybe your pinky nail, right? And that's imagery. That's the writer trying to paint a picture for you. We heard the horse's hoofs clatter on the cobblestone street. So there's a lot there. We heard the horse's hoofs. So right now I'm thinking about the hooves of the horses, right? Their little feet, you know, that part, I don't know if it's made out of cartilage or what or bone, but, you know, it makes noise when it hits something hard. And they clattered. You know, clatter just means like, you know, dishes could clatter, right? And they clatter, meaning they're banging a lot on the cobblestone street. Now, I know what cobblestone is. You might not. But what you can infer from that is like cobblestone is a stone of some kind, and you know it's a street, so the street is made out of it. These are all examples of imagery. So those are the basics. We talked about simile, we talked about metaphor, we talked about hyperbole, we talked about idioms, allusions, personification, alliteration, onomatopoeia, imagery, and those are what I'm going to hit you with for now. And what I want you to do, and this is your assignment, I want y'all to take those different words that I just gave you and the descriptions that I gave you, and I want you to make sure that you write down in your journal what they are. So earlier when I flashed it on the screen, if you didn't get it the first time, get it the second time, right? So I'm writing down simile right now, and this is how we do it. And I'm not trying to talk down to you. I know what you know what you're supposed to do. But I do want you to make sure that when you write this down, you're writing it down legibly. And you're writing it down completely. There's no reason to do text. This isn't a text message, you know what I mean? You want to write down the complete English version of a definition for this first. And I'm just going to write down the presentation that I'm making for you guys. And I'm going to copy it just like you would, right? So see what I got here? I got simile. And I got the definition for simile. And underneath it, I got my first example. So what I'd like you to do is every single term that I just gave you today, I want you to write down the term first, right, in the order that I gave it to you. And I want you to write the definition for the term that I gave you on the screen. If you have to go back and pause and copy it into your journal, that's fine. And I want you to write at least 2 examples. I gave you a couple examples. And here's your assignment. And like I told y'all before, those of you that submit this assignment to me to the email address that I'm giving you, see it's right there, the email address that I'm giving you, you submit this assignment to me in typed writing, and I'll give you a shout out on the next video, so that way people know who's paying attention, who's following along, and who's putting in the effort and who's not. Alright? So here's your assignment. I want you to take each of the terms that I gave you, right? And first thing I want you to do is I want you to take each term, like simile, for example. You already have the definition that I gave you. You already have the couple examples that I gave you for each of these terms. But what I want you to do is create 2 more examples for every single term. So if it's simile, I already told you the sun's like a yellow ball of fire in the sky, or feet were bigger than boats, they fought like cats and dogs. I know I mentioned a few other ones too. I want you to create entirely new examples for each of these terms. 2 examples per term, right? Hit me with the email. Give me the term, like simile, metaphor, allusion, and give me the two examples of each of those. So that way I know that you know that you know that I know that you know and understand these terms. Figurative language is going to come into play a couple of ways. They're going to say, when you're going to read a story about Jack and his snowmobile and how the snowmobile broke down and blah, 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 right? And they're going to say, Jack's snowmobile, they're going to point you to paragraph 3, sentence 2. They say Jack's snowmobile coughed as he tried to turn the engine over. This is an example of hyperbole, simile, metaphor, or personification. And you're going to need to know that because the engine coughed and engines don't cough, that it's personification. You're going to need to know, right? So if you sleep on this, you're not going to know, all right? So make sure that you know these terms. They will be on your test. And a bonus, an extra for y'all, is if you write an essay, especially a descriptive essay or a narrative, you're going to be able to actually use some of these techniques and these terms when you're writing your essay. And if you know them so well, you're going to be able to use those techniques and terms on the spot, creating an exponentially higher possibility of you getting a good grade. All right? So last thing, make sure you copy down these terms. One more reminder, right? This is Mr. Livinoche. Don't play me, son. And then copy down the terms and email me 2 examples of each of the terms that I gave you today. And we're going to work from there. If you send me an email giving me 2 examples for each of the terms that I gave you today, I'm going to give you a super happy shout out on video 3 of 5, which is reading comprehension. Remember, video 4 of 5 is going to be talking about open-ended questions and answering them. And video 5 of 5 is going to be a little bit longer, and it's going to be essay writing. We're going to go over persuasive writing, we're going to go over descriptive or narrative writing, we're going to go over expository, explanatory writing, you know, how to get that down packed, all right? So, thank you for tuning in. I wish y'all luck. Please understand how important it is for your high school career that you do all right on this test, or at least as well as you can. You know, and if you put forth the effort to try to do good, your chances of doing well are a lot. Listen to how I'm talking. Listen to how I'm speaking. No, your chances of doing good are a lot. Your chances of doing well are a heck of a lot better if you actually put in the time and effort, all right? So, I'm sending out an olive branch to you guys. If you're trying to learn, if you want to make sure that you're doing your best, send me those assignments so I can make sure that you're doing all right. I wish y'all a happy first couple of weeks of spring when it hits. I know it's been snowing and it's been sucky in New Jersey, but it's beautiful in California. If you've got questions, please hit me up. When you get these assignments done, do them sooner rather than later. Hit me up. So when I do video number 3 at the end of this week, reading comprehension, I can mention your name and let people know that you've been trying. All right, y'all. Peace.